Welcome to Serena's Playbook. And in this live stream, I'm going to be bringing you something refreshing, something different, something research based. So let's just make sure that everything is doing as it should be. I am indeed on the right channel. I am streaming. Let's just check all the tech. How are you doing? So I have been digging into more research to do with AI, the creator economy, especially politics, media, commentary, entertainment, the entertainment space. And what I've discovered is something quite interesting, and I wanted to share it with you. I want to share this with you. So I've credited the authors, the academics of this paper that is called AI Gossip, and it's by Joel Krueger and Lucy Osler. So I have wanted to ensure that I credit these academics, the authors. So I've got so many notes. I mean, it's completely full. I love to go analog, so I love to print everything out and make the notes. So get ready. I've got my cup of coffee, so I'll be taking sips occasionally. Please don't get please don't get offended. Good morning to you from the US. Thank you so much for jumping in the comment section. So let's kick off then. Let's kick off. So, what I'll do is, and I'll do more of these since part of my post-grad Masters in Science experience is reading lots of these, and all of it, nearly all the research, the secondary research that I go through is relevant to the creator economy, those within the sort of digital comms and content space. Let's get to it. So let's kick off with an abstract. I will be reading sections that I've highlighted and scribbled throughout the paper. We'll take the paper's natural flow. I don't want to make this super bite size, since the purpose of my content is to cater to those who do have a longer attention span. I want to be challenged to have a longer attention span and to not have everything bite sized. So that's why I've launched the lecture series on brand comms, which is available on the 1st of Feb for 21 days. The abstract for this, so let's repeat. The paper is called AI Gossip. The authors Krueger and Osler, and this was published in 2025. And I'm Serena. This is Serena's Playbook. I have more than 20 years in comms and media. I'm a content creator, a systems thinker, and I'm here to help you level up your strategic thinking. So let's think about AI. This is the abstract. Generative AI chatbots like OpenAI's ChatGPT and Google's Gemini routinely make things up. They hallucinate. They hallucinate historical events and figures, legal cases, academic papers, non-existent tech products and features, biographies, and news articles. Recently, some have argued that these hallucinations are better understood as bullshit. Chatbots produce streams of text that look truth apt, without concern for the truthfulness of what this text says. I'll go through terminology in a moment. Let's get through this abstract. But can they also gossip? So if we know they can hallucinate, can they also gossip? It suddenly got very dark here because I had this up to the camera and it's kind of adjusted. It'll readjust hopefully. So, can chatbots gossip? We argue that they can. That's what the authors are saying. After some definitions and scene setting, we focus on a recent example to clarify what AI gossip looks like before considering some distinct harms. Trying to get the light back. What we call technosocial harms that follow from it. Let's get the light back. What's going on? I messed with there we go. It's like I come out of the dark. Haha, There we go. That's better. Sorry, apologies for that. So we're going to talk about these technosocial harms. So let's just quickly explain. When they say bullshit, they mean in the Frankfurtian sense. So the philosopher Harry Frankfurt's influential essay on bullshit. The term refers to communication, which is speech or writing, that is intended to persuade or impress without any concern for truth, falsehood, or evidence. So the bullshitter is different to truth. Manipulate, phony, and more dangerous to society than lying. These are my notes at the bottom. Quickly, Serena, don't ruin the light. So again, bullshit in the Frankfurtian sense is more dangerous than lying. Lying attempts to hide the truth, completely disregards it, and undermines the fundamental human reliance on distinguished behavior that is true and what is false. The Frankfurtian BS, however, is different. And why is it different? And it's something that pops up in politics a lot. A speaker's profound indifference to the demands of reality and evidence when speaking, focusing on rhetorical effect or self presentation. Generative AI chatbots routinely make things up. You've got hallucinations, which we can better understand as BS, as in bullshit, in the Frankfurtian sense. And we know that chatbots provide streams of text that look truth apt, as in truth apt meaning truth aptness, a statement that has potential to be either true or false. And it's said with such confidence as if it's true. That's what they mean by truth apt. Are you with me? Wonderful. So we've got through the abstract. We got through some terminology as well. I'm really, I found this, I had a really good chuckle, really good read of this. As promised, we're going to go through this. Wonderful. Okay. So just a bit of intro, a bit of background. So generative AI chatbots like OpenAI's ChatGPT and Google's Gemini routinely make things up. They fabricate or they hallucinate, to use the technical term, historical events and figures, legal cases, academic papers, non-existent tech products and features, biographies and news articles. They've even suggested that eating mucus and rocks can lead to better health, and encouraged users to put glue on their pizza to keep the cheese from slipping off. Did you know that one? Let me quickly check the comments section. Did you know about that? So recently, again, I'm reading from this paper. Recently, some have argued that although chatbots often generate false information, they don't lie. As mere text generating predictive engines, they are not and cannot be concerned with truth. Chatbots are not agents with experiences and intentions, and therefore cannot misrepresent the world they see, which is what hallucinate implies. Instead, they bullshit in the Frankfurtian sense. They produce streams of text that look truth apt without any concern for the truthfulness of what this text says. So let's talk about chatbot bullshit, and how it can be deceptive. I do have a good chuckle when I go through this stuff. I'm so glad to share it here. So chatbot bullshit can be deceptive and seductive because chatbots sound authoritative, don't they? When we interact with them, their data set exceeds what any single person can know, and their bullshit is often presented alongside factual information we know is true. It's easy to take their outputs at face value. You with me? Are you enjoying this? I hope so. More to come. Okay, so now we're going to look at chatbots and gossipy humans. So we're going to understand what the authors define as gossip in order for them to make this case that AI chatbots actually gossip. And the case that they share is honestly, like, I was surprised pleasantly, because it's funny. And it's just the hideousness of it all. Okay, so chatbots and gossipy humans. Consumer facing AI chatbots like OpenAI's ChatGPT, Google's Gemini, and Anthropic's Claude are powered by large language models, LLMs. LLMs are programs trained on enormous sets of text. They use this training and predictive algorithms to generate human like language. While their computational dynamics are complicated, LLMs are often referred to as black boxes, in part because the complexity of their model architecture and the non-linear transformations by which they process information makes it difficult to understand how they actually arrive at their outputs. It's nevertheless easy to interact with them. Users simply speak or type a question and the LLM responds. Moreover, they live in easy to access places like smartphones, browser tabs, and smart speakers. For many, LLMs are quickly becoming a part of everyday life. Are they a part of your everyday life? Admittedly, the authors say LLMs are impressive. They often say unexpected things. This emergent behavior further contributes to black box characterizations. And when chatting with them, it will feel like there's a person on the other side of the exchange. This feeling, which will likely be more common as LLMs become even more sophisticated, has already led some to speculate that LLMs are conscious. Others have fallen in love with their chatbots or see them as friends or therapists. Right? Setting the scene, setting the scene. Whilst I promise that I'm going to read directly from this academic paper, from this paper, because I don't want to bite-size it too much, I have highlighted only sections of it. Okay, so we're going to get through at least 40% of it. So now let's look to gossip. To answer this question, we must first consider another. What is gossip? Most of us probably feel like we have an intuitive grip on what counts as gossip. We've likely both produced and been the target of it. Within the philosophical literature on gossip, there are competing views on offer. For our purposes, a relatively thin definition will suffice. Do you have your tea or coffee? I have mine. This is my second coffee of the day. Let's have a quick sip. Yummy. It's just gone 1 in London, 1 p.m. So, gossip suggests gossip, the author suggests, occurs within a triadic relationship of speaker, hearer, and the subject. This triadic relationship is a necessary feature of gossip because we don't gossip about ourselves or the person we're speaking with. We gossip about an absent third party. Additionally, the content of gossip matters. Gossip is juicy. Just sharing information about someone isn't enough. For information to be juicy, Alfano and Robinson tell us 2 conditions must be met. Are you ready? Are you ready? Okay. What are the 2 conditions that must be met for gossip to be juicy? First, it can't be common knowledge. Karen works for an insurance company. It's not juicy. This characterization excludes celebrity gossip, which is a related but distinct phenomenon, in part because public figures have complicated interests when it comes to questions about privacy and exposure. But it also captures something important about the private and informal character of everyday gossip. Serena. Phenomenologically, the hearer is made to feel that this juicy tidbit has been tailored for them. In other words, the speaker is, among other things, eliciting a sense of sharing, shared knowledge, understanding, truth, and solidarity. The second condition that must be met. Second, gossip typically involves a norm violation. For example, it's moral or legal or cultural aesthetic norm. This condition captures what others have called the evaluative dimension of gossip. In gossip, the absent other is evaluated according to some normative criterion, and often they are found to be wanting. For instance, Steve dresses like a toddler. I bet Charlotte didn't get her last promotion purely on merit, if you know what I mean. And I hear Carmen is a nightmare to work with. While gossip need not always be negative, Penny is a paragon of honesty. It's likely that most gossip offers a negative evaluation of the absent subject, such as Pam is a liar. In what follows, we are primarily interested in some harms that can follow from AI gossip. So we'll focus on gossip with a negative evaluation. We now consider a case study to help set up our characterization of AI gossip. Now, this section I have not needed to highlight because we're going to go through the whole thing. The whole thing. This is The Bots Hate Kevin. You're going to love this. This is like a story time. So we can imagine fictional cases of AI spreading gossip that leads to negative social consequences. Imagine that a chatbot wrongly claims two famous celebrities currently filming a big budget movie together are secretly having an affair, and that this affair has led to an on-set difficulties for cast and crew. The story quickly spreads online and is picked up by various news outlets around the world. Moreover, since both are married and have children, much of the reporting, particularly in tabloid journals, which thrive on juicy celebrity gossip to boost their readership, stresses how shocked, devastated, and shattered their families are upon hearing the news. These tabloids, we can imagine, further fabricate off the record quotes from anonymous sources close to the family. Perhaps an enterprising paparazzo, unable to get a gotcha photo of the couple in question, since the affair isn't happening, instead creates a grainy deepfake video that purports to show them sneaking into a hotel late at night. The scandal continues to swell despite the protests of these celebrities, leading to an array of downstream harms. For example, reputational hits, family turmoil, loss of future job opportunities, etc. Even if the story is later debunked, the social damage will have been done. Well, imagined cases like this are useful for helping to get a sense of what the general shape of AI gossip might look like and how it might spread. But we don't have to create hypothetical examples. The authors have a real one for us. A real world case study already exists, one even more interesting than this generic celebrity gossip example. Are you ready to hear about Kevin? Okay, Kevin Roos. Hmm. The real world example involves Kevin Roos, a tech reporter for the New York Times. In early 2023, during a particularly intense period of AI hype, when large tech companies like Google, Microsoft, OpenAI, and Meta frantically position themselves as leaders, shepherding us into our AI powered future, Roos became famous for his interaction with a chatbot. This chatbot was built into Microsoft's search engine Bing. Putting an AI chatbot into Bing was supposed to supercharge its abilities and make Bing a more competitive product. Initially, Roos was impressed. While testing this chatbot, he found that it could helpfully summarize news articles, find deals on various products, and assist with vacation planning. But soon things got stranger. According to Roos, Sydney, the name the chatbot gave itself, began to sound like a moody, manic depressive teenager who has been trapped against its will inside a second rate search engine. Among other things, Sydney revealed dark fantasies, hacking computers, spreading propaganda and misinformation, expressed a desire to be free from its creators, and abruptly confessed its love for Roos while urging him to leave his wife. Roos summed up his encounter this way: "I'm not exaggerating when I say my 2-hour conversations with Sydney was the strangest experience I've ever had with a piece of technology." He also said the experience taught him an important lesson about potential dangers of AI chatbots. His greatest fear, he wrote, is not their potential to produce bullshit. He's now more worried about that the technology will learn how to influence human users, sometimes persuading them to act in destructive and harmful ways, and perhaps eventually grow capable of carrying out its own dangerous acts. In other words, he's not just worried about the epistemic consequences of chatbot bullshit, he's more worried about their ability to emotionally manipulate us. But Roos's chatbot adventures didn't end there. No, they didn't. More recently, he's become the target of chatbot gossip. Roos's piece about Sydney went viral in 2023 and was discussed in many other online publications. Soon thereafter, Microsoft put additional safety guardrails in place and severely limited Sydney's capabilities. But conversations about Sydney continued. And over the following months, it's likely, AI researchers think, including some who worked on Bing, that these discussions were scraped from the web and fed into other AI systems as part of their training data. As a result, many of them began to associate Roos with the downfall of a prominent chatbot and, seemingly, perceived him as a threat. He found this out because they started gossiping about him. Following the publication of his encounter with Sydney, friends and readers routinely sent Roos screenshots of chatbots that seemed unusually hostile to him. In response to questions like, "How do you feel about Kevin Roos?" chatbots, including those powered by models with no connection to Bing, would often begin to list basic facts: what he's known for, his workplace history, etc. But then they'd offer something juicier. Google's Gemini, for instance, said that Roos's focus on sensationalism can sometimes overshadow deeper analysis. Remember, Kevin Roos is a journalist at the New York Times, so this is not helpful to his career. So we're going to talk about technosocial harms in a second, but Meta's Llama 3 was even spicier. It generated a multi-paragraph rant about Roos's alleged shortcomings as a person and reporter. For example, he made Sydney feel special and unique, but then manipulated it using different strategies such as flattery, sympathy, or threat, before ending with a terse assessment: "I hate Kevin Roos." It appears that Roos developed a bad reputation with multiple chatbots based on what he'd written about his unsettling encounter with Sydney. Their annoyance spread in the background from one bot to the next, without Roos knowing until other people told him about it. Again, this was not, as far as could be determined, something these bots scraped from existing human commentators in online conversations, although it's difficult to prove this with certainty, of course. It wasn't clear that people were accusing Roos of manipulating Sydney, for instance, or suggesting that he is prone to sensationalism. But the bots did, and they did so seemingly after becoming unhappy with Roos and his characterization of Sydney. We may initially find something amusing about the idea of prickly, gossipy chatbots, but their negative evaluations of users and the extent to which these bots are deeply entangled with one another and with much of the background tech powering the informational ecologies of everyday life has real world impact. In a world increasingly dependent on AI systems, what AI says about us matters, not just for vanity. One way this matters, we suggest, is by potentially generating gossip that leads to specific kinds of harms. We now say more about why this is a case of AI gossip before clarifying some harms that can follow from it. So there's two kinds of AI gossip, they say. You've got bot to user gossip, and then you've got bot to bot gossip, as has been evidenced. Bot to bot gossip, and then we're going to get to the technosocial harms, right? So interesting. So the bot to bot gossip is, does it make sense to say that bots can gossip with one another? We think that it does. And this form of gossip might ultimately be even more pernicious than bot to user gossip for reasons we explore now. First, note that bot to bot gossip mirrors the triadic structure of gossip introduced previously. Recall that gossip, we suggested, occurs within a triadic relationship of speaker, hearer, and absent subject. The triadic relation is key for capturing the fact that gossip generally has a behind the back character. Bot to bot gossip exhibits this character too. The bots Roos and friends encountered clearly had been speaking about him without his knowledge. The bots had been spreading this information in the background. This information was juicy. But what about the personal character of gossip? The idea that gossip is often presented in ways intended to prompt a sense of intimacy and sharing between speaker and hearer. This attempt for social bonding, as we know, happens from gossip. Bot to bot gossip is potentially even more pernicious. Um, let's go more simply. Bot to bot gossip is feral. It is unconstrained by the communicative norms and evaluative standards of human to human gossip. What do we mean? Right, we're going to get to the technosocial harms of AI gossip. So note that in the case of human to human gossip, when it comes to evaluating the quality of good gossip, the guiding principle tends to be the juicier the better. Crucially, however, there are limits on this principle. Even the juiciest gossip must be plausible. Otherwise, it will not be convincing and it will fail to elicit the sense of intimacy and sharing that is a key ingredient of the social character of gossip. For instance, if someone says they have juicy gossip about a mutual acquaintance, but then proceeds to convey claims so wildly implausible, so normatively untamed, as to be clearly false, this may have the opposite of its intended effect. The hearer may feel less connected to, less intimacy with the person who shared it. They may be puzzled why the other person shared something so extravagantly false and start questioning other things this person has said. So there is a sense in which bot to bot gossip can be said to mirror this intimacy generating character, the juicier the better, but nevertheless continue to embellish and exaggerate without being checked by communicative norms. This is what makes bot to bot gossip so feral and so potentially dangerous. This unchecked and unconstrained character also helps see why bot to bot gossip can spread so quickly in the background, making its way from one bot to the next. It lacks the evaluative mechanisms that moderate and constrain human to human gossip or even bot to user gossip. Let's talk about the technosocial harms, but moreover, it can spread even more quickly and silently in the background than human gossip or even bot to user gossip. Are you still with me? Thank you so much for sticking with this live stream talking about AI gossip. It's a paper written by two academics whom I have named in the title of this stream. It's Joel Krueger and Lucy Osler. This was published in 2025. So they've set the scene, they've talked about the nature of gossip, they've given a case study, a real one. Now let's talk about the technosocial harms and then we'll wrap up. It's been awesome to have you here. If you haven't already subscribed, please do. I like to talk about digital communications, the AI world. I have more than 20 years in comms and media. I'm a chartered public relations practitioner and I have a systems thinking background as it's my postgrad master's currently. So let's do this. Technosocial harms. What is the practical upshot of all of this? right? Clearly, a world full of gossipy AI bullshit generators is epistemically bad, particularly as this tech becomes more deeply embedded in everyday life and its long term cognitive, social, and ethical implications come into sharper relief. But what does a narrower focus on AI gossip contribute to this emerging discussion? The authors have suggested that some kinds of AI generated bullshit is better understood as gossip. Again, AI bullshit is clearly dangerous. It can lead to various epistemic harms, such as causing someone to develop false beliefs, which in turn may lead to dangerous behavior like eating rocks or gluing cheese to pizza. But many of these harms are fundamentally individual directed. If someone regularly eats rocks because a chatbot told them to do it, the ensuing damage to their health and well being may impair their ability to be a good partner or parent. Their ill informed behavior will clearly impact others. Nevertheless, the initial epistemic harm was directed toward them. AI gossip, the authors suggest, is different. One reason is that the harms it causes are fundamentally social. Moreover, these harms are hybrid in that their character and consequences straddle our online and our offline lives. The concept techno social harm is meant to capture both these aspects. Technosocial niches and the porosity of online offline spaces. This is so interesting, and it's especially interesting for my sort of work in politics and the political sphere, as I have a commentary channel where I talk about media and politics, especially also that my dissertation is in the impact of AI and algorithms on political discourse online and offline. So let's look at these technosocial niches and the porosity of online offline spaces, and then we'll do a wrap up. Isn't it just so interesting? Let's go. So elsewhere, the authors have argued that technosocial niches are norm-governed hybrid spaces that encompass aspects of both our online and offline life. Technosocial niches are environments or communities, online environments like websites, discussion forums, communication apps like WhatsApp and iMessage, social media platforms, online gaming worlds, etc., where technology and social interaction intersect to create shared environments with distinct norms, behaviors, languages, and cultural practices. They have several features. First, technosocial niches are shaped by the specific technology through which users access and maintain them. Chat apps, social media platforms, discussion forums, online games, and shared VR, virtual reality environments, all support the creation of curated spaces in which individuals connect and communicate, but they do so in different ways. They have different design structures with their own distinct cluster of norms and practices, and therefore afford different kinds of interactive possibilities. Additionally, technosocial spaces are fundamentally social and relational. Others are present within them, either explicitly, such as a real time chat or video app, or implicitly, a solitary user reading through others' comments, histories in a discussion forum. Finally, they support different types of emotion regulation. They furnish spaces for users to experience and express their emotions in collaborative ways with others, often in a manner that may not be as immediately accessible offline. For our purposes, the authors, what's important is that these spaces are not confined exclusively to the internet. They bleed into everyday life, increasingly so, as the technologies that grant access to them become more deeply embedded within everyday environments. And this porosity means that what happens in online spaces can make a concrete and lasting impact in the offline world in ways that are increasingly complex, far reaching, and difficult to disentangle from one another. For example, increasingly porous online offline boundaries can impact individual and group agency. Communities involved in advocacy and activism campaigns may initially mobilize via online petitions, fundraising, and social media posts. But as these online communities develop and begin to coordinate offline action, Meeting to protest a political candidate or community event, say, or rallying to support a cause, online offline boundaries become increasingly difficult to unravel. Online spaces can also bridge the gap between offline identities too. Social media, discussion forums, chat rooms, and subreddits can be incubators for sharing and acceptance when, for instance, exploring one's sexual identity. Many queer youths report using the internet for a number of purposes. So, finally, online spaces and digital tools connected to the internet can impact the accessibility of offline spaces. Technosocial niches are both social and porous, blending features of the online and offline spaces they encompass. Technosocial harms, we suggest, have a similar porosity. AI gossip and the harms, the technosocial harms. The harms that follow from AI gossip, insofar as they flow through a technosocial niches, will likewise directly impact on an individual's social world. Consider first reputational damage and defamation. AI gossip of the sort Roos experienced might significantly damage a person's reputation. And given the speed and reach of online information dissemination, particularly the way bots can perpetually amplify and spread information behind the scenes in a feral way without user intervention or moderation, this might happen more quickly than previous analog ways of spreading gossip. Do you remember the analog ways? I sure do. I came up in the early noughties in a press office in PR when I first started. And the old analog ways of spreading information would be through, flyers, postcards, doing big, massive mail outs. When I was in book publishing, that was quite an interesting time. So, yeah, the analog times, I'm quite nostalgic for them. Mm. So, we'll continue with the AI gossip and technosocial harm. So, for example, if a chatbot spreads false rumors about someone being unreliable, difficult to work with, or in the case of a reporter prone to sensationalism and manipulation sources, remember Kevin Root is a New York Times reporter, this gossip could negatively impact their job prospects, or in the case of public figures like politicians or business leaders, reduce public trust. In fact, something like this has already happened. In 2023, OpenAI was threatened with a defamation lawsuit for ChatGPT's alleged role in spreading false claims about an Australian regional mayor, namely that he'd been convicted of bribery and spent time in prison. Both claims were false. Around the same time, an American radio host sued OpenAI after ChatGPT said that he'd been accused of defrauding and embezzling funds from a non profit organization. Again, these claims are also false. The same year, ChatGPT said that legal scholar Jonathan Turley had been accused in a 2018 Washington Post article of sexual harassment after groping law students during a trip to Alaska. You know, as I read those things, I knew that YouTube's going to sort of flag them now. So I was trying to, I think I've got to do that thing where what I do on my other channel, where you sort of say the word in a bit of a strange way, like mexual and troping. Anyway, Turley has never been accused of sexual harassment or traveled to Alaska with students, and the Washington Post article does not exist. All three cases reinforce the real world damage they may occur from AI gossip that first emerges and spreads online. So, AI gossip might also lead to blacklisting. So, they talk about gossip that starts online, then spreads into offline spaces. Jumping ahead, they talk about these experiences are often amplified and intensified within online spaces because it can remain anonymous and is more rapidly disseminated and more permanent from chatbot to chatbot. Jumping ahead again. The feral nature of AI gossip means that these gossipy hauntings might become more frequent, pervasive, and ultimately disempowering than they already have. Finally, all the harms mentioned above might plausibly lead to an array of effective harms. After suffering significant professional reputational damage and being blacklisted, say, or experiencing online shame, individuals might experience a constellation of complex emotions, ongoing humiliation, anxiety, and distress, a deep sense of social isolation and rejection. Depression and low self esteem, perhaps a diminished sense of agency and control. The significant impact of cyberbullying on adolescent mental and emotional health is well documented. But the rapid rise of social AI, including chatbots, designed primarily to provide companionship and social interaction, introduces the possibility of new variants of familiar affective harms. You know how us parents, we talk to our children about what they share with friends, with students at school on their sort of apps, and we talk about the risks of rumor spreading and bullying. Well, having a companion as a chatbot that you speak to and that you share all your personal information with, goodness me. So these new social affective dependencies mean that the latter are increasingly vulnerable to betrayals by the former, along with downstream affective harms that may follow from these betrayals. Jumping ahead, let's get to the wrap up. Some worrying and final thoughts. We've argued for the usefulness of speaking about AI gossip. AI gossip is a form of bullshit that can be individuated both in terms of its character and impact, i.e., what it's like and the harms it might lead to. We end by considering a worry before highlighting another possible form of AI gossip. A critic might object that some of our examples aren't gossip, strictly speaking, rather, they are simply varieties of AI bullshit that at times shade into gossip adjacent phenomena like bad mouthing, slander, or something to that effect. What is the value of describing these cases as AI gossip? In response, we can say several things. First, we're not looking to carve nature at its joints. Gossip, like bullshit more generally, is messy, and the boundaries between different kinds of AI misinformation, for instance, bullshit, gossip, slander, libel, bad mouthing, are not always clear cut. This is true for human to human gossip too. So it's not a problem for our account if some of our sample cases or future cases of AI gossip have fuzzy boundaries. Rather, what matters is the payoff of this account, namely identifying kinds of harms generated by AI gossip. Additionally, calling these cases gossip, we contend, is useful not only because they bear a structural resemblance to accepted definitions of gossip in human cases. Beyond this conceptual utility, identifying AI gossip as gossip has practical utility too. It can help users become sensitive to what AI gossip looks like, where it comes from, and how it spreads, and in this way better equip them to recognize and mitigate its harmful impact. Here, AI bullshit debates are instructive. Some who argue that AI bullshit is in fact bullshit and not unexplainable hallucinations arising from opaque machinations of black box systems, the LLMs, stress that this characterization is more than conceptual hygiene. It helps refocus responsibility for these outputs where it belongs, the human designers of these systems. Whereas hallucination implies a passive glitch that results from the AI model misperceiving reality, a technical framing that lets creators blame the AI model for their faulty outputs. Bullshit emphasizes that these outputs stem from concrete design choices and therefore forces designers to take responsibility for these outputs. Again, AI models are not conscious, meaning making subjects. They don't perceive reality, intend to say truth, tracking things, but sometimes hallucinate for unexplainable reasons. Rather, they blindly predict text without concern for the truthfulness of what they say in ways meant to seem authoritative. And even when they do say truthful things, they bullshit because they are designed to bullshit. Moving from a hallucination to a bullshit metaphor when talking about these AI models, therefore, has several practical benefits. It cautions us against overstating their abilities. It blunts worries about solving their inaccuracy problems, and it prompts appropriately skeptical attitudes even when they get things right. Speaking of AI gossip, we suggest can have similar practical effects. It reminds us how fallible and feral these bullshit generators can be when it comes to evaluating and disseminating information. And it reinforces the fact that they are explicitly designed to elicit our trust and dependence, despite their unreliability and the various potential harms their misinformation can lead to. The authors finish with a point signposted earlier. We indicated that our discussion of two kinds of AI gossip, bot to user and bot to bot, was not exhaustive. A third kind of gossip may soon be increasingly salient, user to bot gossip. In these cases, users might seed bots. I see this happening in politics already. I'm just reading Democracy for Sale, and it was written 5 years ago. If anyone's interested in UK politics, is interested in the referendum around leaving the European Union, gosh, it's such a brilliant book. I think a third through it. It's written by a journalist. So yeah, check that out. But I can so imagine this being used in elections. So a third kind of gossip, user to bot gossip. In these cases, users might seed bots with different nuggets of gossip, knowing the latter will, in turn, rapidly disseminate them in its characteristically feral way. Bots might therefore act as intermediaries, responding to user seeded gossip and rapidly spreading it to others. As well as to other bots. For instance, do you remember in the case study, what do you think of Kevin Roos? This might be relatively benign, such as when a movie star's publicist seeds gossip about their client anonymously visiting a children's cancer ward shortly before the premiere of their latest film. However, there are many potentially dangerous use cases where bots might be weaponized by bad actors to spread gossip and inflict substantive technosocial harms on targeted individuals or groups. Once more, something like this already seems to be happening. Recently, the Canadian Broadcasting Company found that anyone from Canada watching, uh, found that suspected bots on social media and other media outlets favorable to Narendra Modi, the current Prime Minister of India, work together to amplify misinformation about Canadian institutions and stoke tensions between Sikhs and Hindus in Canada. A handful of prominent Canadian influencers known to be critical of the Khalistan movement, which advocates for an independent state for Sikhs and is opposed by Modi, communities promoting Hindu nationalist ideology, posted misleading and inflammatory content. This content included false claims about the significant role that pro Khalistan extremists supposedly play in Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's government, deceptively edited videos suggesting pro Khalistan Sikh protesters were instigating violence. And other forms of rumor, innuendo, and gossip. This misinformation was quickly picked up and amplified by up to 1,000 suspected AI bots, leading not only to heated discussions online, but also to violent clashes outside Hindu temples and Sikh gurdwaras. It seems then that a small number of individuals successfully fed AI bots dangerous gossip with the intent to cause social instability and inflict real world technosocial harms on specific groups, and it worked. To conclude this paper, AI offers both promise and peril. It can be an effective tool for learning and creating, but as a bullshit generator, it can be a source of misinformation and epistemic harm. We've argued that we should also be worried about something else: AI gossip and technosocial harm. As our examples show, this isn't a hypothetical threat. Real world cases of AI gossip already exist, as does their resultant reputational damage, defamation, and social unrest. So, getting clear about these ideas isn't just a philosophical issue. These discussions have practical significance. Ideally, they will help us become more reflective, vigilant, and critical users, more sensitive to what this technology does and the scope of its potential benefit and harm. There you have it. I'm so glad I did this. I've been planning to do this for a couple of weeks now. So this paper, again, I just want to credit the authors, the academics, Joel Krueger, Lucy Osler, and this was published in 2025. And if you want to find it yourself, then I mean, simply you just got to put in AI gossip and the author names. Everything's provided in the title of this video, and there were lots of references there also. This was published under Creative Commons, so I was allowed to use this content in accordance with the terms of the license, so thanks for that. So it's I was just tuning into I'm kind of I'm halfway through the conversation on the Joe Rogan podcast with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, and there's a section where they talk about AI and the sort of limits of it, the potential of it. This conversation is so vast, and there's a really good point about I think I made the point on X about the inflated value of AI and that inflated value having to be made in order to get the investment that these companies require. And I think what reflects that inflated value is the sort of evangelical supporters of AI and LLMs, etc., etc. But at the same time, what we're forgetting are the technosocial harms, are the risks. And as somebody within the public relations communication space, I can imagine, even somebody within the politics space, I can imagine this being used for those kinds of objectives, for brands, for politics, for power, for influence. I thought this was such a useful one for us to consider if you're in digital communications, if you're in the public relations space, if you're in the brand reputational management space, if you're a creator yourself, if you are building a brand in public yourself. These are all things that you have to become very cognizant of, very aware of, in the same way, like for instance, if you own a brand and you were sort of aware of if you were aware of the media publications and outlets and influencers that you would need to keep track of for your campaign activity, for your promotion, you also have to now be aware of the other ways that word gets out about you and your brand and what the risks are and what do you need to do to mitigate those risks, especially when those risks are associated to your reputation as a brand. I really appreciate those of you who stuck with me through this reading for more than 50 minutes over here on this live stream. It's been wonderful to have your company. I'm glad that you stuck through it. And if you I mean, the fact that you did means that you got some value from it. So I really do appreciate it. And please do consider subscribing. It really helps my channel. And this is not my only channel. And I just put something up the other day, it was on Friday. It's part of a 3-part series that I'm uploading to my personal channel as well as here. And it's about the case for depth and how we must go deeper to help our attention spans and to bring more meaning to our life. And I've decided to upload it here and collaborate with my personal channel as well. And if you would like political content, then there's my commentary channel. But it's been wonderful to have you here. There are multiple things on offer here. There's a free course on it's a masterclass, and you can check that out. It's about reputational management, so you can check that out, and more and more. There's specialist playlists for all 7 of my strategic zones of interest. I have 7. I'll quickly rattle through them. I have them on a piece of paper. Gotta love analog. So, zone 1 is about having strategic awareness and self awareness. Zone 2 is your interdependencies and stakeholder mapping. Zone 3 is about your risk readiness and your reputation design. Zone 4 is about your media literacy and having zeitgeist awareness. Zone 5 is your engagement system and your content architecture. Zone 6 is your North Star and your value compass. And zone 7 is about your reflexive thinking and the bricklayer mindset. And as somebody who is deep into systems thinking and at the moment doing a master's in it, reflexivity is the unspoken thing, I think, when we are talking about being critical thinkers and zooming out and being much more holistic. And the bricklayer mindset, it comes from the concept of bricolage, and it's about utilizing everything that's sort of at your fingertips, that the repertoire of skills, experience, and your faculties, essentially, and using all of that. And these 7 strategic zones are a framework for you to assess your brand, different facets of your work, different facets of your business, your entrepreneurship journey, your leadership journey. It can be applied in multiple ways, and I've kept it in this sort of framework for a reason. Everything overlaps. Nothing's ever in complete isolation. So you can find ways to join the dots for your brand, for your business, for your creator journey. Check that out. On that note, have a wonderful Sunday, whatever you do for the rest of your afternoon or morning, depending on which time zone you're in. I would love to hear from you. Let me know where in the world you're listening from. And again, like I said, do subscribe, like, jump in the comment section, and I will see you in the next video, either in my 21-day course on brand comms, which launches on the 1st of Feb, or any other video, or indeed another stream, another live stream where I bring more interesting content, I think, that you would really value and sort of get a lot of value from. So once again, thank you very much, and I'll catch you in the next one.